This day in sports history. It's September 16th, and on this day throughout sports history, we had a golf first, a college football first and only, and how fast do you think it's humanly possible to travel on a bicycle? All that and more on today's edition. Stick around, this is going to be fun. But let's start with what happened on this day in 1869 when young Tom Morris did something that old Tom Morris only dreamed of. Young Tom Morris was just a wee lad of 13 when he beat his old man on the golf course for the first time. Now, that may not sound that significant until you realize that old Tom was the reigning Open champion at that point. Young Tom had grown up on the Prestwick Golf Club. Of course, his father had carved out of the Scottish heather and rugged terrain. He made his debut in the Open Championship at the age of 14. By the time he was 17, he'd won the Open Championship himself. On this day in 1869, he was attempting to defend that championship title. Prestwick, the course he knew better than any, was hosting the tournament once again, and at this point in time, the course was only 12 holes long. It was the first round of a 2-round tournament, and when young Tom came to the 166-yard par 3 8th hole, he pulled his mashie from his bag and took a mighty whack. The ball hit the green, took a couple of hops, and rolled into the hole for an ace. While it most certainly was not the first ever ace on a golf course, it is recognized as the first ace at the Open Championship and the first in a major golf tournament. He went on to card a 50 for the first round, and he followed that up with a 55 in round 2 to win his second Open Championship belt. The Claret Jug was still 4 years away from being the official trophy for the Open champion. Young Tom was no stranger to dramatic shots in his career, though. Just a year later, he is considered to be the first golfer to record a double eagle in tournament play, holing out from 200 yards with his third shot on a 578-yard par 6. On this day in 1989, Rocket Ismail did something that no college football player had done before or since. Now, I've got to set the scene here first because this was a huge college football game during the '89 season. It was the top-ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish under the direction of Lou Holtz, and they traveled to Ann Arbor for a battle with number 2 Michigan, coached by Bo Schembechler. It was a bit rainy at the Big House that day, and wet field conditions are apparently good for the man everybody called Rocket. A year before, when Ismail had been a freshman, he'd run 2 kickoffs back for touchdowns in a rainy game against Rice. Prior to this one, Irish special teams coach Jay Hayes told Rocket that he had a feeling, with the weather like it was, that another pair of kickoff returns for touchdowns was going to happen. With the Irish leading 7-6 to start the third quarter, the now sophomore Ismail exploded for the first one, and everybody found out why they called him the Rocket. Here's ABC's Keith Jackson with the call from that day.
The Irish had won the toss and elected to defer, and now they start from the 12 with Ismail up the middle. He is gone, unless there's a flag behind him. No flags, touchdown.
That was an 88-yard kickoff return for the touchdown and the first kickoff return for touchdown versus Michigan in 32 years. This was also the debut game for future NFL quarterback Elvis Grbac. He led a Wolverine drive and threw a touchdown pass to make it a 17-12 game. But this was not about an Elvis sighting on this day. This was about a rocket launch, and Ismail was about to head to the stratosphere on the ensuing kickoff.
From the 9, here it comes. Rocket to the 30. Here he goes. Goodbye. Touchdown, Notre Dame, no flag.
That one was a 92-yarder, proving Irish assistant coach Jay Hayes to be a football Nostradamus. Notre Dame won the game 24-19. Now, there have been 25 guys in college football history to run 2 kickoffs back for touchdowns in a single game. But Rocket is the only player to run back 2 in 2 different games. How about another high-octane performance from this day in college football? Let's go to what happened on this day in 2000 when Kentucky State's Alvon Brown had himself a great day. Kentucky State is a D2 HBCU, and on this day 24 years ago, the Thoroughbreds were playing Kentucky Wesleyan. There was but one Thoroughbred on the field that day, though. Alvon Brown rolled up 405 yards rushing to set a Division II record. Unfortunately, Kentucky State had 160 yards in penalties that day as well. Now, Brown got some of those back on the next play or two, but his number would have been a whole lot bigger if a lot of that laundry had stayed off the field. Brown said that whenever he eclipsed the 100-yard barrier, he'd take his O-line out for pancakes and OJ. But after 410 yards rushing, he splurged and took them to Applebee's. Brown's mark was eclipsed 4 years later. Some big numbers were also added to the stat sheet in a couple of baseball games on this day in history. In 1924, St. Louis Cardinal Jim Bottomley was a one-man run machine. In a 17-3 thrashing of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Bottomley drove in 12 of those 17. He homered twice, including a grand slam, collected 6 hits, and then topped Wilbert Robinson's previous record of 11 RBI when he singled home his 12th in the 9th inning. Wilbert Robinson had a good seat to watch his record get broken. He was the Dodger manager at the time. Now, Robinson had his name nearly removed from the record books again on this day in 1975. Pittsburgh's Rennie Stennett collected 7 hits in a 22-0 win over Chicago. Stennett became the first modern major leaguer to have 2 hits in an inning twice in the same game. His 7 hits in this 9-inning affair equaled Wilbert Robinson's 7 hits he had 83 years earlier in 1892. And let's finish off today's episode with this story from 2018. And this is a bit niche, but stay with me here. So, I asked earlier how fast you thought it would be humanly possible to travel on a bicycle. Flat road, maybe 30 miles an hour if you're really pedaling hard. Okay, how about flying down a hill? Maybe get up to 50, 60 miles per hour? Okay. Now, what if you were on a specially made bike with huge gearing riding behind a specially made dragster and you were shielded from the wind? How about 183.932 miles per hour? Well, on this day in 2018, Denise Mueller-Korenek broke the bicycling land speed record on the Bonneville Salt Flats with that speed. The previous record had been 167 miles per hour set back in 1995. Now, there are some special rules and considerations here. The bike is tethered to help get it up to speed. And then once it gets over 110 miles per hour, the bike unhooks from the car. The rider is riding in the car's slipstream, but it's a unique symbiotic relationship between driver and bike rider. Any issues with the car, say the engine blows up, tire failure, transmission failure, any sudden stop or unexpected slowing down, and it is a catastrophic end for the cyclist. The bike still has to be pedaled and controlled in the slipstream once it's released. Mueller-Korenek's bike was specifically designed for this ride. It had a wheelbase of over 7 feet. The tires were 17-inch dirt bike wheels. It was equipped with dual cranks, one on each side, and each with a gearing of 6212. The tether past 110 is necessary to get the bike moving because of that gearing. So on this day, it was a 5-mile ride, and in the final mile, she was able to pedal the bike untethered at 183.932 miles an hour to become the fastest human ever on a bicycle. It's pretty cool. Time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Hundreds of feet below the surface of Kansas City, Missouri, there is a cave filled with cheese. Located deep underground below the Ozark Mountains, there's close to 2 billion pounds of government cheese kept at a constant temperature of 36 degrees. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.